I do. There's a glare back there, though. All right, good afternoon. It is now 1 o'clock on December the 12th, and I'm going to call to order the work session of the Mayor and Council. Let me just review the agenda for just a second. All right, so I see there is Jennifer here? Okay. Under governing body, item A1 is Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for fiscal year 2022. Who's doing this? Come on up here. I think our city manager and city attorney are late. There they come. Well, the city attorneys, but I don't see the city manager.
He's on his way right now.
Perfect. All right,
You ready?
go
Okay. Yes.
ahead. No, we didn't.
I just wanted to bring the mayor and council's attention to an award that the city received. This will be our third consecutive year in receiving this award. It is through the Government Finance Officers Association, which is also the acronym GFOA. It's the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This was for our fiscal year 2022. The financial report that we complete after the auditors come in and audit, we submit that to the GFOA. We have to meet certain criteria in order to receive the award, and we received notification that we got it for this prior fiscal year that was just been not 2023 but 2022. If you don't mind, I'd like to read the press release that GFOA asked that we present when we present this award.
Absolutely.
GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada, has awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting to the City of Rica for its annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year ended September 30th, 2022. The report has been judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, which includes demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the report. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by the government and its management. So as finance director, I'd like to thank y'all, mayor and council, for your support in allowing us to have the resources needed. Our auditors, Malden and Jenkins plays a very vital role in making sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's during the audit so that we can present and send a comprehensive report to GFOA. But most importantly, as y'all probably already know, I'm a team player, and out of everybody I want to thank, it's the finance department. Our team is here. I got Louise, Katie, and Amanda. We work behind the scenes. We're actually now working on fiscal year 2023, preparing for the auditors to come for that. But all the departments doing their job allows us to do our job and do it seamlessly. But their hard work and dedication to working on this report so that we can achieve this award means a lot to me, and I just want to personally thank them for work.
Why don't you have them all stand up and
for doing
let's
that.
recognize them. I know Katie loves attention.
Yes.
Let them all speak.
And I'd like to invite each one of you to come up and speak. Don't run.
But here's the plaque.
Not
They
candy.
send one plaque, and then they give us tokens for every year. We haven't officially got the token, but we did get the letter, so I wanted to go ahead and present it
That's
today.
wonderful. Thank you all. Thank you for all you do. Y'all give them another round of applause. Thank you. Tom, being an old finance guy yourself, you want to say anything about that?
I can testify that they can all talk.
That they can all talk? Oh, but they're not offering that proof up here
Not in
today.
public.
I see that. Y'all want to come up and get a photo? Y'all want to do that?
That'd be good.
Come on up. Why don't you get Tom to get in a photo with you? He's real photogenic. Oh my goodness. You just I got two cameras going. Thank y'all. All right, very good. Next on the agenda is A2, Planning and Zoning Commission appointments. There are two wards for which there are expired terms, Ward 1 and Ward 2. I will recognize Ms. Marchman to make her nomination for Ward 1. Did they give you a piece of paper? No. Yeah, it's a mistake on the cover sheet for Ward 2. Just cross that out. It says 4 on the cover sheet, but it's actually Ward 2. So,
you want me to make the motion?
Ms. Marchman,
All right.
a nomination.
The nomination for Ward 1 that we have decided would be Mr. Kendrick Davis.
All right, Kendrick Davis and Mr. Montahan for Ward 2.
My nomination would be to reappoint Mr. David Rogers for Ward 2.
Matt.
Planning and Zoning.
Your mic's not on.
I'm not even talking into it. I'm sorry. My nomination would be nominate to reappoint David Rogers to the Planning and Zoning Commission for the term of January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2028.
Okay, so the, Madam Clerk, the nominations for Ward 1 is Kendrick Davis and Ward 2 is David Rogers. If there are no objections, I will make that consent number 1. All right, A3, Housing Authority appointment. I will reappoint Amelie Woodall to the Housing Authority, and if there's no objection, I'll make that consent number 2. Villa Rica Development Authority, the nomination to appoint Rusty Dean to that vacant spot. If there's no objection, I'll make that consent number 3. All right, let's go to tab B, Community Development. Do all of these items have a public hearing? Let me look and see real quick.
Yes, sir.
All but the alcohol beverage license for R-Pit. David, does that have a B6? Will that have a public hearing? Okay. All right, good. I want to make sure what we got here. All right, so for all these items that have a public hearing, we will just briefly introduce these here, and then we'll take them up this evening. Let's go to B1. This is VA-12-23, 133 West Bankhead Highway. This is a variance to reduce drive-through queuing spaces required. This item has come before the council 2 consecutive months. This is the 3rd month. Have we spoken with the applicant?
Yes, we did speak with the applicant. He will be here tonight.
He does plan to be here tonight?
Yes.
Okay, I think we had this one introduced enough.
Yeah.
B2, VA-14-23. This is 2 variances from Townhome Architectural Design Standards on Mirror Lake Boulevard. This item has a public hearing, but go ahead and introduce it, Ron. This item was before us last month, correct?
It was, yes. So this applicant is Flournoy Development. On November 14th, the city council, at our last meeting, they approved the first variance that was shown on your cover sheet there. If you could scroll down for me a little bit. So that was for the automobile storage for the minimum 2-car garage. We reduced that to a 1-car. However, that was contingent upon him having master bedrooms on the main level, and he has now come back and said that that's not possible or it's not feasible. It's not something that was, of course, in their plans. And so he's requesting for the city council to relook at that variance again, in addition to the one that we haven't decided on, which was the driveway depth.
Okay, David, let me just ask you on that. I don't know that I've ever seen one of these come back for reconsideration like that. Tell me how this
We
works.
have not had one come back for reconsideration.
We've not had one to come back for reconsideration. I mean, this was, in my remembrance, is that it was one that was approved, and with a condition, yeah. So I don't know of any reason why he can't raise it unless the council just doesn't want to hear it.
I'm not of that opinion. Nobody has said that to me. It's just interesting that I've never seen one come back. And when I reviewed this material at 8 o'clock last night, because that's when I got it, essentially what happened in November is the applicant agreed to a condition that the master be on the main, and has since decided that that condition was premature, that they could not agree on that condition.
right.
Yeah, and I think the reason why you wouldn't have had is generally when people get what they want, they don't come back and ask again.
Right. So, but because we're already going to take up the length of the driveway issue, you don't see a problem with the council taking another look at that question?
No.
Okay, because it was not denied, it was approved, although with a condition. Okay, council, do you have any questions for Ron?
Well,
Mr.
my
Montana?
question actually was pertaining to kind of what your question was, Mayor. My only recollection that's even maybe close to this is when we had that truck stop issue out on 101 in Industrial, and I think we had where it was denied, and then we had in the next meeting we had one of the council persons that asked to reconsider it, and then at another meeting we then voted on it again. So I didn't know if that was the process that had to happen, or like.
Yeah, and the distinction on that one is that one was one that was denied.
Right.
And so you had to have somebody who had voted in favor of the denial to ask to reconsider it. In this case, I don't think there was a split vote on it. I think everybody voted
Right.
the same way to approve the variance request with the condition. So it probably would work out if somebody who voted for it moved to reconsider it.
And then I guess to kind of piggyback off that question, I mean, since this is a matter that usually requires a public hearing and notice and so forth, I don't know if staff did that in this case, because if they're basically asking for a reconsideration, it's almost as if, and again, I know this was a variance, it wasn't a zoning, but usually in zoning, the only way to remove a stipulation is to get the property rezoned again, even if you're going technically from the same zoning category to the same zoning category. So, I mean, can we take action on that if this has not been renoticed in a public hearing, et cetera? I mean, that was my next question.
I think that's a good point. And, the fact that the applicant agreed to the condition that was placed on it, probably, we don't need to just do away with the fact that that was something that the council agreed on. And if you are going to remove that condition, yeah, I would say you need to have a whole hearing on it.
Well, let me look at it like this, because this is my concern here is with noticing provisions, because he would not be able to get back in here tonight were it not for this unresolved element. In other words, he couldn't walk back in here and ask for this reconsideration. So I'm inclined to believe that he can't get this part heard. And I'm also concerned with the noticing provisions because the public heard, they were noticed for a public hearing. We've already been through that public hearing. That was the end result, and now they are not on notice that might get reconsidered.
Right.
I guess if that's the case, then we should not allow that reconsideration. Yes.
This is only a single variance, right?
Well, it's two variances in one variance application, and so it has the same variance application number which would have been which was appropriately noticed, and so being that the case is still open, it's still one case.
That might be a fair point too, because the reality is that we tabled that item. So really, the whole item could come back.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to make a call on that, David.
Yeah,
But
I will.
that point, that's the first time you've made a point like that, Ron.
Thank you. I appreciate
Congratulations, you got me.
Well, if I may,
All right.
my concern though, and I can see that rationale, but my concern is if your objection to this application was the master on main issue, or the one-car, two-car garage issue, when you left out of here in November, you thought that issue was resolved as a member of the public. That's my concern. But, so you may be thinking, well, they're coming back for the other issue, so,
On the discussion, my memory of the discussion is that there was nobody that spoke regarding to the master on main issue other than you.
okay.
And, I don't think there was any comment about that at all, other than from the council. And so I don't see that there will be any member of the public that would object to that because it was never raised. I'm glad that you did clarify. All of this is just one variance request rather than two separate ones.
That's correct, yes.
And if you tabled any part of it, then I think the whole request was tabled.
I believe that
I
at
think
this
so,
point.
too.
So we went back and forth, but I think that's where we're at. Mr. Carter.
Okay, it says he's requesting the council to reconsider and condition in lieu of some new information. Do you have any idea what the new information is, Ron?
Now, you're looking at his email, correct?
I'm looking at his request, yes.
No, he's actually looking at the staff report.
Is it the
cover
staff
sheet.
report
Yeah.
or the cover sheet?
Cover
The
sheet.
cover sheet, I'm looking at it now.
Just that they can't.
Well, the new information, right, I was just going to say, the new information is that they can't, because if you recall, he said, yes, I can do this master on main, and now he's submitting information saying, no, I can't do the master on main. So
Change of mind is new information, is that what you call it?
it's new to us, yeah.
Yeah, if
Uh-huh.
you read his email, though, that's what he says last night, is that upon getting back to their office, it was determined that that was not possible to do, and he misunderstood. I wasn't hardly following his rationale for how he misunderstood. That didn't wash, but, okay. That would have been better. All right, anybody else? All right, we'll take that up tonight. All right, B3. VA-09-23, this is a variance request from stream buffer standards for 11 Gordon Street. This item will also have a public hearing. Ron, this is the first time for this item, right?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right, go ahead.
So Kenneth Wood with PEC Plus is applying for the stream buffer variances in order to construct a 318-unit apartment complex. But in order to do so, parts of the parking area is impeding into that 75-foot stream buffer by 8,000 square feet and the 30,000 square feet and the 50-foot stream buffer by 8,000 square feet. And so we recommended approval, but with the condition of the variance shall only be applicable to the site plan that's actually submitted. So we were trying to get the site plan into the legal record so they would be bound to just that site plan that they submitted to us, and no, trickery or changes of the minds later.
Okay. When did you come up with that word? No trickery or changing of the minds later.
It's kind of
This is an
poetic.
interesting meeting so far. Okay, council, do you have any questions for Ron on this one? What we're really dealing with here is just stream buffer variances, because the project itself is allowed under its current zoning.
That's right,
Correct.
CMU zone, yes.
This is under the CMU. So the only issue we're faced with here is the stream buffers, which any use of that property is going to run into that, be my
Serious
guess.
topo
All right.
issues,
Council,
yes.
do you have any questions for Ron? All right, we'll take that one up tonight. Let's go to B4. This is a text amendment, TA-02-23, text amendment to establish wholesale businesses in the C1 zoning district. Ron?
Yes, so Arpit Realty LLC is the one that's actually applying for this text amendment, and it's for wholesale businesses. He's interested in selling convenience store items, but directly, not to consumer, but directly to other convenience store owners. And so We didn't have a zoning use really, that's just like commercial wholesale, and not that had any specific rules. And so he's looking to instill wholesale business into the C1 zone, so that would actually be applicable to all C1 zone properties throughout the city. And so we wanted to recommend approval with conditions, and the condition, the only one that's up there is that they should be limited in size to only 10,000 square feet. We wouldn't want this isn't to permit for things like, for example, a Sam's Club, or, that's a wholesale use. That's commercial, that sells direct to consumer. So we want to draw that distinction at 10,000 square feet.
Okay, do we allow this in any of our zonings?
We do allow it in the C2 zone, but being that the property that he was looking at on Old Liberty Road, I believe he owns it actually, was C1. He wanted to try his luck in trying to get it in the C1 zone.
Try his luck, huh?
Yeah.
All right, anybody, you got a lot of cool words today.
I don't know what's
All
up
right,
with me today.
anybody got any questions for Ron? We'll take this one up tonight.
Hey,
All right,
Wait a minute.
he passed, Mr. Wamp.
Well, okay, so if we limit it to, we would include a Sam's Club or a BJ's Wholesale, and they would they would fall into this area?
Not in a C1 zone, no. That we wanted to restrict that to just a C2 zone only, which would be permitted, but not a C1 zone. C1
Okay.
is more like neighborhood commercial versus the C2, which is much more like general commercial.
But if we pass
uses.
this text amendment, then they would be permitted in a C1 zone? No.
No, only
No,
10,000
because it'd be
square
limited to
feet.
10,000. The Sam's
Okay.
would be like
100,000.
50,
50,
60,000 square feet.
Okay.
But it would
Thank
still
you.
be permitted in the C2. That's
Right.
just
Yes.
Or whatever it is, okay.
based on the type of use in those two zones. All right.
But a wholesale use, if we pass this amendment, would be permitted in C1,
But up
but
to
limited to
10,000.
10,000 square
That's
feet.
right, yep.
Okay. I see, thank you.
Okay, B5, CU-04-23, this is at 419 Main Street. This is a special exception use to operate a shipping container food hall / shared kitchen. This is at the old Robbie's location,
Yes,
correct?
yes, that's
All
right.
Go ahead, Ron.
Michael Rickman came before us last month for a text amendment to allow for shipping containers to be utilized within the CMU zone, the CBD zone, the I2 zone, and the C2 zone. And we passed that amendment to the zoning ordinance, and as a part of that, now he's coming back, being that they're permitted only as a special exception use, he has to get the special exception as well. So he's coming back, and so we he has actually a lot of renderings that he submitted to us as well about kind of like what this would look like. This is a very new concept for us here in Villa Rica, but they are being used throughout the metro area, as we know. But it would permit for some additional flex space in our downtown. We have a pretty high occupancy rate in the downtown, and there's definitely a need for some more commercial space. And obviously, a shared kitchen would be something I think a lot of restaurateurs that don't want to take the plunge and have the overhead would like to be able to utilize here in the city. So this is very new, very unique. But we did see the need to probably have some protections on us as a city, to have some conditions. So I drew up two conditions here. One is the container village shall be constructed as presented in the architectural plan submitted with this application, and all architectural plans shall be entered into the legal record, so we don't end up getting a completely different concept than what's actually being shown to us.
So last month, we took up whether we would even allow these special uses, and now this is the first applicant to come before us, and we know of another one coming
Yes,
after
we do.
this, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. These, since this is new for us, David, have you looked at this, and do these conditions seem adequate? Obviously, I can't possibly hold us to knowing everything that might come up, but we can learn a little bit from our neighbors.
Yeah, I mean, they look reasonable to me, given the proposal, and, I trust Ron's judgment on the conditions.
Yeah. And I guess you got these conditions from other uses, from seeing this in surrounding areas?
Yes. So, well, not these specific conditions, but I wanted to make sure that what he's actually submitting to us is what's actually going to show up on the property.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
That makes good sense to me. All right, council, do you have any questions for Ron? Oh, Ms. McCoy.
This might be more of a question for the applicant, but when he says food hall, how is that going to work? Or is that more of an applicant question?
I definitely want to hear from the applicant as far as how he sees it operating. But what I did Google the term just to make sure I kind of understood what it was before the meeting. And so the food hall itself would be essentially majority restaurant uses and kind of like a small compact space where they would all share dining area. And in this case, shared kitchens as well, and for some of these different uses. And so, it would be like a central location for dining, and then lined almost like a food court in a way, in a mall, but with shared kitchens.
Okay. I've got some questions for the applicant.
But there's not a ton of space over there. Didn't he include some renderings in
He
this?
did,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. I mean, that'll give some idea for tonight. You don't have to pull them up.
Okay.
Yeah, so-
Just pointing out that there are some additional, there's some additional information for it. Okay, anybody else? All right, let's move on to B6. This is the alcohol beverage license for Arpit Nilesh Patel. This David? Oh, thank you, Ron. David?
Yes, just by way of quick review, we are still trying to issue licenses for package stores here in the city of Villa Rica. Quick status of it is that we have 4 zones that we're issuing a package store license for. This one would be the north zone of the city. We have one in the west zone that the staff believes is moving forward and have been talking with and working with the holder of the west package store license. We've sent a letter to the holder of the district, which I consider to be the east side of the city, telling them that they need to provide us some information within the next 30 days as to their progress, or we are going to terminate the issuance of the presumptive license status to them. On the South District, we believe that applicant has failed and is not going to be able to construct it, so I anticipate coming back to the council next month asking that we reopen the South District for another round of applications to see if we can get a qualified applicant for the South District. Again, this one right here is for the North District. It's at the intersection of Paradise Road and Punkintown? 101, okay. And this applicant has met all the requirements of the ordinance. So what we're asking you to do tonight is to approve them as the presumptive licensee for this district. And then, once they're given that, then they have the go-ahead to begin getting their building built. And once everything is in place, then they will actually come to you for the issuance of the license.
Okay, because I see a motion already in place there, I'm going to try to put this on the consent agenda. Is there any questions for David? All right, Ms. Wormuth. I'm going to write that down and just post it up here somewhere. or turn your tag around so I can
Right?
read it. I'm terrible.
So, my question, and I don't know that it's necessarily something that we would be in charge of or over. My concern is safety in that intersection, because there have been many accidents, fatalities over in that intersection that this is being proposed at. So I don't really know where the question is with that. Like, is there any?
It's a legitimate question. I understand what it is. This is really just the very first step towards giving them the right to move forward with the planning, the engineering, and they've still got to meet all the other requirements of all the city ordinances. City engineer will have to review all this. I mean, it's conditioned upon compliance with all requirements of the City of Villa Rica alcoholic beverage ordinance, but it's also in compliance with all the other ordinances of the city. Traffic's certainly a concern. They're going to have to satisfy you as the council and the Georgia Department of Transportation that it's going to be safe entrance. It's a state highway.
Well, and the reason that I said I wasn't sure if this was something that would be on us or not, because I know that that's right on the line of the city and the county. So I wasn't sure if that was something that would be county or if that would be city. That would be city?
I think it's going to be the city and the state.
Okay. Yeah, because the safety right there would be where my concern would be.
That's a legitimate concern.
All right, anybody else? All right, is there any objection to making that consent number 4? All right, let's move on to Human Resources, tab C. So let me take this one to start with. I'd already mentioned to, y'all come on up. I'd already mentioned to Tiffany that the council has this binder, but you just got it. And so what I've asked Tiffany to do, we always do these personnel updates in December, and I guess we're just late getting them out here, but I've asked Tiffany, and I haven't mentioned it to Lena yet because I don't think you were here when I first saw these binders. But I want her to go through and give us the highlights of this. I'm not going to put this on consent because I need to allow the council to have an opportunity to flip through this after you introduce it, and then it's not very long, but give them an opportunity to go through it and see if there are any questions tonight. So I just want to give you a heads up that we're not going to put this on consent. And then we'll take up that second item after. But go ahead, Lena.
All right, so we posted it on the, it's on the agenda, civic clerks, right? It's on the civic clerk, the policy is. But we wanted to give you all a binder because we just wanted you all to at least also have a hard copy today as well.
All right, good. Can you get a little closer to the mic?
Thought my voice is so loud.
It is, but for clarification, the folks at home can't hear you all the way at their house.
Okay.
Unless you get close to that microphone.
So hello, folks.
Hello.
This is Lena Taylor, I'm the HR director. I have here Tiffany Jenkins, who is the HR manager, and we are here to present to you the new updated personnel policy. I tell you, it was definitely laborious. That's why we're presenting it at the end of the year. We have been working on this for about a whole year. And we want to just ensure that best practice was followed, ensuring that we covered all areas that we possibly can think of, legally and ethically, and that we are also employee-centric, as it is personnel policy that will be followed by our wonderful employees. We exhausted all business practices, ensuring it's also aligned with all departments, including PD, as some areas you will see that excluding PD is that for certain items, PD has their own policy that the police officers would need to follow. We want to ensure that was precisely written, and we conferred with our peers at other cities. We also looked at state policies as well. We even looked at policies that were outside of Georgia, too. As I said, we want to be really exhaustive. We conferred with our vendors and our consultants, our vendors such as our risk management or our workers' comp consultant, and also with LGRMS. So I have done the presentation, and so now we will have Tiffany she will go through all the changes.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
So on the consent agenda, we listed all the sections that have either been updated or are new sections added to the policy. The ones, I can go through and tell you which ones are new if you want to tick mark those to look back on that later.
Oh, you said the consent agenda, but what you mean is the cover sheet, right?
I meant the cover sheet. You're right.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Not consent agenda.
Okay.
Cover sheet.
Quickie
Threw me
question.
off. Just shake it
Yeah.
off a little bit.
Wrong word.
Just
I got a
bring
quickie.
yourself around. You'll be fine.
I got a quickie question.
Yeah.
Is the stuff in blue that's in the book, is that added stuff, new stuff?
The blue and the red. So I was explaining that to the mayor earlier. I don't know if it got a little weird because of how many times it was saved and then reopened, but anything that's in blue and red is something additional
But
that
the
has
bl-
been added.
But the blue has been added, period. The red I see is changes.
Right. But the blues changes too, but I don't know if it turned blue because we saved it and then reopened it later to make more changes. So I
Yeah.
think that's the difference in the two
The
colors.
confusing thing is that after you get through this a little bit, you're gonna see that some of the blue is even struck through.
Right.
That's why it's not,
Oh, yeah.
that's why it's not clear to me
It's-
what's happening in here.
Right. It's really hard with all the tracking changes
That's why I
on.
wanted you to explain it and then let them take the, I understand that it was already in the agenda, but this copy is confusing.
It is.
Because of the colors.
We've had to look at it a lot.
So the blue, so if it's struck through, it means that we are deleting it.
Okay.
Okay.
But how did it get to be blue to begin with? I guess is,
So it could have been something that we added in initially and then saved the document and came back later and then decided that that wasn't the right wording or that wasn't where it needed to be. So then I took it out after it was initially a change to the policy. So then when I deleted it, that's what struck it out, but it kept it as blue because
Okay,
it's
but-
new to the original.
well, then that goes back to what Danny just said. We just want to understand what we're looking at.
Yeah.
So all of the blue is something that was added,
Mhm.
but some of the blue was later stricken out.
Right.
Does that make it
I,
a
no,
little bit more clear?
my understanding was that the blue that's stricken out was in the handbook originally and deleted, but it's there for reference so you know what was in there. And usually it's different colors when you're
Yeah.
using Microsoft Track Changes because there may have
Yeah.
been different users in there.
Yes.
So Tiffany may be
That too.
blue and
It-
Lena
it's
may
been
have
a
been
lot.
red or vice versa.
It's been a lot. Sarah initially started it, then I picked it back up after her, and I think Lena's been in it a little bit, but
All right. Well, let's let you present it, and then we'll see where we're at because I'm a little bit more confused now. Go ahead.
okay. On page 1, under the statement of our philosophy, we just simply made an adjustment to the wording there just to make it a little bit more understandable and precise. Page 2, policy revisions and amendments. Again, that was changing wording just to make sure that it's more concise. Effective date and policy and procedures. We just added in that employees are required to sign an acknowledgement when they get a new policy manual, because that wasn't in there before. Georgia Open Records Act, we didn't have anything in our policy about Georgia Open Records Act and how we handle it when we get an open records, especially pertaining to personnel files, so we added that in.
Okay.
Next one would be on page 7. Employee personnel records and privacy. This is also something we didn't have previously, and looking in the other municipalities, the other counties, this is something that everybody had in their policy handbook. Just to reiterate that we are keeping their records, we're maintaining them properly, and they are private.
Well, let's go back to page 5.
Okay.
Looks like you added careless disregard for city property. Is that correct?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
That was a last addition to the standards of conduct.
Yeah, let me just see what that, okay, that falls under the standards of conduct.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
go ahead.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
All right. Employment of relatives is the next one on page 11.
So is all of this blue been added?
Yes. Blue is added. The blue on the bottom of that paragraph that struck out is what was, yeah, so this was a scenario where we added a section in, and then we revisited it and decided to change it again to make it better, and that is where the blue struck out come from. So the blue not struck out is,
So the blue struck
Oh.
out, though, was actually the original language, wasn't it? I've read this in the policy.
I think it
report.
was the original
was.
language.
That was the original language?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just see that.
You're right.
You've made it more clear.
It's confusing to me too. I've been trying to figure out where the colors are coming from.
Oh, what's the intent of this
Red,
section, of this
This
paragraph?
red, this
Let's,
through, this out.
If it's struck through, it's completely out.
Okay.
Yes.
no matter whether it was original or not.
Regardless
Mr.
of-
Carter, ask that again.
Yeah, I'd like to know what the intent of this section, where you've added a lot of language in here, what's the intent of this?
The employment of relatives,
Yeah,
just to be a little bit more concise. Looking at other municipalities and other counties, theirs was a little bit more precise in what this policy entailed. So
We will or will not employ relatives of employees of the city, is that?
we do in separate departments. They
Looks like
can't,
if they're not they're not in a direct supervisory role, or
They
they
c-
don't make decisions.
they can't be direct reports to a relative.
Oh, okay.
It's not department,
So,
What?
no,
don't
so,
we have two in the police right now that are related?
Yes, but they're not, one's not,
You can be in the same department, you can't be in the same.
But you can't
Right.
be underneath,
Organization.
you
Right.
can't be hired in under a guy that's related to you, whether he controls your pay raises and whatever. Okay.
exactly, yeah. We could have two relatives in two different departments of utilities, as long as they're not reporting to each other. Page 13. Oh, yes, ma'am.
I have a question. First off, on page 11, and this looks like it was original because it's in black, right? It's nothing changed, correct?
Right.
What is I cannot pronounce it, and I fully admit I cannot.
Consanguinity.
Consanguinity, and what does?
What is that?
The
That-
table
it's
of
a-
consanguinity is a table in our wills books and estate planning books that say, if this is the deceased person, and then you go all the way out to their cousins and their nephews and the relationship of the whole family to that person.
And y'all thought that it was worth keeping that word in there?
yes. because
Which
it
one of
sound-
y'all are going through people's family tree?
We had conversations about it,
Right, we
but it
did.
ended up staying.
Because like as I said, we actually, legally, especially legally, we wanted to make sure that we were following legal and also ethical. So that's why we decided to keep that in there.
No person related within the
Yeah.
second degree by affinity or consanguinity
Consanguinity.
to the mayor. That means anywhere in their family tree.
Well, by the second degree. So once you get beyond like second cousins, you're good. Well, but I think even being a cousin already pushes you past one. So the second cousin actually might be on the third degree already.
It would be.
Mayor, I still have my law school estate planning book, and there's an example of the table of consanguinity is in there when we bring it by tonight. And we can study it.
So does that mean like great grandchildren can be hired, but grandchildren can't?
You don't know if that's
We'll,
the answer. or
we'll
not.
take a look at the table. We'll verify that this evening.
I think that's what you got to do.
I know.
I feel like this is a little extra, but I also don't think it's important. I mean, we've never really run into anything like this. So, all right, let's just.
It's all related to the council.
That's right, the mayor and council. Yeah, so that's fine. Move on.
Okay. Page 13, reemployment, break in service. This is the same policy we already had. We just updated it to say that their sick leave balance would be reinstated if they returned within 90 days of their termination date.
Okay.
But sick is not. It's paid out on that date. So that is not reinstated.
All right.
All right. And then on the same page, hiring process. We didn't have any SOPs or anything that documented what our hiring process was. So we put that together and put that in this section. And then temporary employees on page 14. That we didn't have a policy regarding this either if we hired in seasonal employees. And this is also too, if we have someone that's out on a long-term FMLA, that we would be able to bring in a temporary person to fill that gap while they're gone, if there was an undue hardship on the department by having that person out. So that's
When we talk about temporary employees in this context, are we talking about from a temp agency or that we hire and they are on a temporary basis?
This would be that we hire. They would be on our payroll on this.
Does our
in this
policy permit that we would hire somebody?
They would be like a seasonal,
So we would do it under that?
yes.
Okay, because you're talking about them possibly taking over regular duties of someone who is out of work for an extended period of time. That's
Right.
probably a valuable employee, I would think. This meets with what you're looking for? All right, go ahead.
All right, page 21. Overtime. We just updated the policy here to include an excerpt from the FLSA policy, just pertaining to law enforcement, because they are paid in overtime after a certain amount of hours. That doesn't apply to normal full-time employees, so we just wanted to have that documented there.
Okay.
Right, and then 23.
No, 22.
Oh,
This is interesting. The employee is required to, you struck out speak with and put in the word contact his or her supervisor directly. Why the distinction? I mean, there is a difference. There's a clear difference with whether I spoke with someone or whether I just contacted them. Why did we do that?
I think we put that in with today's times, that a lot of time they're not calling to speak with their supervisor, they're sending a text
A message.
or an email. So we just wanted to cover all the contacts.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Okay, performance reviews on 23. We just, again, updated, looks like anytime you or your was the employee, and then we added in that if a poor performance review is received by an employee, that they would be put back on a probationary period until they were able to have a higher performance.
Okay.
Okay, and then 24, we put in a policy about merit increases. There was nowhere in our policy book that referenced merit increases, so we wanted to have an excerpt in about that. The same with the cost of living adjustments. That just saying that they're up to council if those are received for each employee each year.
Okay.
Incentive pay, same page. We changed it a little bit to say that it's limited to no more than 50% of the increase, and we'll kind of talk about this in a minute, and that it's a minimum of $500 for full-time employees and $250 for part-time employees, and it will be grossed up for taxes.
Right. Okay.
Okay, pay frequency on the same page. We just updated it here because originally it said if you had a problem with your paycheck to contact your department head, but really it should just come to HR so that we can fix that. And then it made a comment about paper checks being given to department head, and that's not the case anymore. They're all direct deposited, so we updated that.
Okay.
All right, and then employee benefits, page 25. We did not have a current HIPAA policy in any of our handbooks. So this is a very thorough HIPAA policy, which just referencing to how your medical information will be handled by the city.
Okay.
Okay, page 27, qualifying life events. Again, we didn't have this documented anywhere, and a lot of times employees are not aware of what a qualifying event would be that would allow them to make a change to their medical benefits.
Okay.
Okay, and then 28, we added in a policy on the wellness program. Since we implemented that about 2 years ago, we didn't have a policy outlining that for our employees.
Okay.
Okay, 29, retirement. We just updated there the name of the association that we have it through, just to be a little bit more precise. And then the employee assistance program, we updated that as well because we didn't want to specify which company we were using for EAP in the event that that changes in the future.
Okay.
Discounted participation fees and facility rentals on page 30. We added the word recreation there because most of those facilities are recreational that we would be renting, and we added a dollar value of $300.
Okay.
Training and certification, just some added wording there about the process, and that they have 12 months within the start of their position to get the certifications that are required for their position.
You struck out refresher course for a test. Why did we do that?
Yes. You want to say that one?
For cost.
Well, that's a good reason, but are we needing
So we actually pay for the certification and the certification test. Refresher course, that's really for if someone doesn't pass the test. So that will be prudent on them to then find a refresher course, or we can find one, but they would then have to pay for that themselves.
Have we run into that?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
And so that's one of the reasons why we actually updated within 12 months, because we did discover that some of our employees, and we so understand, when you take a test, I know for me, tests, I'm not a test taker. I'm not. But if this is something that's required, and prior to you being hired, you were informed that these certs were required for you to complete, then and then you understand that that is the case, then we do give you that time to study for it, because not only are you doing paper study or you're doing online studying, but you also have a mentor within the department that's actually helping you, with the materials. So, yes.
Well, I'm not gonna. I'm just trying to be, an advocate here. That there could be, because you limited it to one time anyway. We wouldn't want any abuse of it, but isn't it in our best interest to let them take a refresher course if that's necessary? But if you limited it to only one, it's not like there's really potential for abuse, is there?
Well, what'll happen is that you have 12 months to actually take the class and to study for it. And so what we discovered that with some of the training that in our research, we discovered that some of the training, that is enough time for them to actually take the test and to study for it. Some of the reasons that we were given that, there were reasons that would not suffice for us to
Okay. All right.
keep the refresher course, for us to pay for a refresher
right.
course.
Be careful. I know you're getting really close to probably a specific case. Does anybody else have any questions on that? I mean, do you feel confident that you need to strike that out?
Yes, we do.
Okay. All right. Then let's go.
Okay. The next page, on page 31, the tuition assistance, there were no changes made here. We just updated the table because I just felt like it looked better.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, and then
Hold on just a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did you strike? No, it's over on the other side, Danny. It's just a restatement of the same thing.
yeah,
She just didn't
I
like how it
just
looked.
changed the format
All right,
of
go
it, the
ahead.
information. 33 on vacations. We just changed mostly the word from annual to vacation because that's what we refer to it as. And that strikeout there you'll see is something, again, that we added. We went back, did more research, and then decided to take it out. So that blue strike through at the bottom of that paragraph was not originally in our handbook.
Okay.
Got a
Part
com-
about military FMLA?
Yes.
Okay. But you determined you didn't need it?
Yes.
All right, go
I
ahead.
have a question.
Yes.
Yes.
So I feel like I'm looking at the paid time off and the paid holidays, and I feel like once a year we do a agenda item where we're confirming the city's holidays.
We're
So
confirming the dates of the next year. Yes, sir.
okay, so is that kind of what we're doing? And so this is just basically okay. That makes sense to me now. All right, thanks.
No, you're welcome.
The dates just have to get cleaned up every year because they
Right.
change.
That
Yes.
makes sense.
All right,
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Use of vacation at the bottom, we took out how they must provide 3 days' notice, because sometimes that's just not applicable to some situations, as long as their supervisors are aware that they're gonna be out. And then 34, we updated it to say that vacation requests may be put into the payroll system. When this handbook was written previously, we didn't have that ability.
Okay.
Page 35, we completely redid the donation of leave policy. We wanted to, in an effort to try to make it a little bit more fair across the board, I guess, we want to have employees that are in a situation and need leave in an emergency situation, they would request that, and we would let the city know as a whole that someone is asking for donated leave, and then those employees can fill out the form if they are interested in donating any of their time.
And
So
that
this-
actually does happen pretty regularly around here.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
All right. 37, military leave. This was updated to fall in line with what the federal guidelines are, which is 18 days per federal fiscal year that we will pay for military leave.
Okay.
We took medical leave out of this section because we were pretty extensive in the FMLA procedures that are on the next couple of pages, so we removed that there.
Okay.
38, we did not have a workers' comp policy or anything that talked about leave if you're on workers' comp and you can't come to work for that time. So this outlines the policy and procedure on workers' comp and if you are unable to work.
Okay.
Okay, and the FMLA policy, if you go to page 41, this is where the majority of the update is, and it just talks about the procedures of applying for FMLA, what those certifications are, and then use of paid leave while you're on FMLA, and then job protection, and that.
But that's all guided by federal law.
It is.
Anyway, correct?
Yes, it just was not previously in the handbook.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Okay. I know there's some blank pages. That's all fixed once all these changes are in. Format's better.
Okay.
Page 45. We added in that prior to delivering any progressive discipline that the human resource manager or director be consulted on this scenario.
Okay.
Page 46, we updated the employee appeal process. Previously, they appealed to the department head and then had to appeal to the city manager. If the department head didn't overturn it, we felt like that was a little redundant. So now they appeal to HR. HR has a certain amount of days to make a decision on their appeal. And if that still isn't what the employee wanted to hear, they can go to the city manager with an appeal. And then he is the final decision.
Okay.
Okay. We updated employee complaint procedure to show as grievance procedure, which is more in line with the times.
Okay.
Notice of resignation on 48. We took out just what we felt like were some unneeded sentences in that policy.
Because you can't require this anyway.
Right.
So, all right, go ahead.
The next couple of pages you may see where mayor and city are struck out. That was just, again, kind of formatting that council means all of the council. So we just trying to get it in line and keep it all very simple in that
That's
area.
good. All right, come on.
Dress code, page 51. We eliminated construction or hunting boots because honestly, some of our utilities guys are wearing those types of boots out in the field because they're steel-toed and
That's right.
they're better.
Especially some of John's guys.
Yes.
All right.
Jewelry, piercing, and tattoo. We just updated that to fit in more with the times and also added the exceptions about law enforcement because they have their specific guidelines due to the nature of their duties. We took out the inappropriate dress policy on page 52. We just felt like it was kind of redundant to have that there.
I mean, we were really talking about leggings and joggings.
Yes.
Legally.
It seems like we shouldn't have been doing that to begin with. All right, go ahead.
Yes. Page 54, business use only.
Danny's upset that the tank top got struck. Oh, and the mini dresses.
Sorry, Danny.
It's messing with his wokeness. All right, let's keep moving.
Page
Business
50
use only.
Yes, page 54. And we just added in that employees are granted permission to take city vehicles home on a daily basis if they live within 30 miles. And then the take-home policy vehicle underneath it defines how these employees are designated as those that can take their vehicles home.
All right.
All right, 56. Nope, that's not really anything there. That was just formatting. Let's see. We didn't really touch the technology policy at all. Page 65, we had a new social media policy written. So the first page there is that new part. The blue struck out is what the old policy was. Okay.
All right.
And then page 69,
We added in a whistleblower policy. We saw that this was pretty common for other municipalities to have in their policy manuals, so we added that in there as well, and as well as the weapons policy on page 70.
All right, give me a minute on this one.
So there's a Georgia statute and federal statute on whistleblowers. Is that, this is consistent with those statutes?
Yes,
Okay.
it should be.
Okay.
Okay, and then page 71, we made an update to the outside employment, to say the outside employment for our employees should not interfere with their job, and then added in an exception for the police department, because they have their specific guidelines around that as well, if they're doing outside employment for security or anything like that. And that was the last change.
Okay, so the outside employment, though, you can't have, it looks like it can't be a conflict of interest, so you wouldn't have the same type of employment, or would you? Help me understand that. Outside employment that constitutes a conflict of interest is prohibited, but how do we determine the conflict of interest?
So the conflict of interest may come in if you have a business whereby you may, while you are working for the city, you'll then poach the citizens or whomever you come in contact with to then have them utilize your business. Understanding that, you know, some of our employees do work outside of the city or work outside of what they do here, we were not trying to infringe on their right to make a living separate from what they do for the city. But then we also understand that, you know, and we're not, employees should not be allowed to work their private or their business while they are working for the city. So while they're working on city's time. Yes.
Would an example of this be, like, I'm trying to think, if they sell something outside, like Tupperware, I don't know why that popped in my head, but something like that, if they sell something as on the side or whatever to go to the city and use their position to further that, is that what this policy?
Correct, yes.
Is that how this policy could be interpreted?
Right, that's how it can be interpreted. So what we did was that we looked at other municipalities, state, whether it was in the state of Georgia or outside the state of Georgia, and this was the language that they used, and they used that language basically so that they won't infringe on the employee's rights. But then you also have an obligation when you're working for, whether it's a company or a city or such, that during those working hours, you are performing the job for the job that you're being paid for during those times. And then you're not able to, you should not use any type of time, tools, or such from that job that you are being paid for.
So it looks to me like the policy is essentially the same, except that the old policy required you to get permission and notify your direct supervisor.
Correct.
Now, you're not having to do that, but the same rules are still in place regarding that outside employment. Is there any issues with this, David?
No, I don't see any. I mean,
Okay.
you can always come up with some way to an example that would not work, but in general, this is a good policy.
I agree, and I just found it a little bit difficult to see how we're ever going to police that anyway, but because something would have to arise, and at that point, you would run afoul of the policy itself. So once it arose, whether you had permission or you didn't. So when I first started this, I thought that you all would give me a brief overview of it, and that the council may need to take it home and do it tonight, but they may be able to. Has anybody got any questions now that we might put this on the consent agenda and not do it again tonight? Mr. Carter.
Okay, going back to your weapons permit, how does this affect a person who has a carry permit, allowed to carry a gun, like one of the council members? I have a carry permit. I could have a gun on me right now. How does that affect me?
David?
Yeah, I think each municipality has the right to set standards for themselves. You've got the right to have a gun with you
If I have a permit.
outside of here, yeah,
Okay. I just renewed it. That's a good thing, right?
it is.
Yeah, outside of certain places, like here you can't, but, all right. Anybody else have any? Is there any reason why we can't make this consent number 5? All right. So y'all successfully got that done, and I didn't think you would. All right, C2, let's take up the updated employee incentive pay. So, yes, sir, C5. So essentially what has happened is that last year, we had considered making changes to the end-of-year incentive policy because last year, the program that this is based on did not do quite as well. And we realized that there would be years where we would rather, if we did really well, be able to offer a larger incentive. This year is one of those. In fact, that program has put more than $500,000 in the bank, correct, Jennifer? And so since we've just adopted, or will officially tonight, but we've just agreed to an update to the policy for the end-of-year incentive, Council, you all asked if you could bring this revision and retroactively apply that new policy to this year, and instead of capping the end-of-year incentive at $300 for a full-time employee, you want to make it $500.
Yes.
And instead of capping the incentive for the part-time employee at $150, you want to make that $250.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, Council, do you have any questions for Tiffany or Lena?
Okay.
Mr. Carter?
Yeah, we mentioned you had it wrong in here. Did you
Oh, yeah.
update it
There's a
online?
Correction, yes, the 150.
It doesn't look like it's been updated.
There's
Do
both
we-
a typo and a math malfunction on the part of Lena, I think.
Yes.
So on your cover sheet,
I'll take that.
on your cover sheet, it says, in fact, I don't have it in front of me here, but there's Mr. Carter, will you tell them?
It says 200/150. It should be 200/100.
Correct, yes.
Right,
And at the bottom, the motion needs to be updated.
okay. So we would make that change if there's any questions. Is there any questions? All right, if there's none,
Oh,
is there,
wait.
all right, Ms. McCoy.
I just wanted to say, to be clear, the motion should have read, I moved the additional funding for incentive pay of $500 for full-time employees and $250 for incentive pay for a part-time, correct?
Correct.
That's how it should read.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, say it again.
Well, no, but it says additional
Well,
funding.
Not if you use the word additional,
Now, additional is a 200 and 100.
because you've already approved the
that's right.
original,
Right,
right?
we approved it last meeting.
Oh, yeah, because
Oh.
it says additional.
The
on
300, 150 is already approved.
So it's a 200, 100
Okay.
deal. And that motion
Got it.
has to be fixed.
That is
yeah.
why I
It's
asked.
200, 100
Yeah.
Yes,
additional to what you already approved.
That's correct. So
Okay.
can you update that motion? All right.
Okay, that's why I asked.
Yep. All right. Now, is there any objection to making that consent number 6? All right. Good. All right, ladies. Thank you.
thank you.
All right. Let's go to D. Tab D. Information technology. D1 is the replacement of servers. Jim, did you notice how none of the IT stuff got touched in the employee handbook?
It's great,
They're
isn't it?
scared to touch that. All right. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. These two items actually go hand in hand with one another. Our servers right now are at end of life, so this is to replace our current production servers at our data center in Bremen. And then roll that equipment in to make a test environment and also to enhance our secondary location, which is right here behind us in this little room right over here.
How old?
They're 5 years old.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions? Ms. McCoy?
I only saw one quote in the packet.
Correct.
Did this go out for RFP or did it
We
not?
currently have HP servers, and they've been very good. And as far as doing the migration, it'll be seamless, and I can do in-house. And the way a lot of your IT providers work, like if I go to Cisco and ask somebody to give me a quote, they won't quote directly. So say if I go to CDWG and they quote Cisco, nobody else is allowed to quote me that Cisco product for that.
Okay. I
Purchase.
was just curious because there was only one quote.
Okay. That's a good explanation. Sometimes we have that. Mr. Carter?
So to be clear, the first item, $63,400, the second item is $65,739.
Correct, and what it is, the SAN is you have two pieces. You have a server, then you have a SAN. The SAN is what holds all the data, including the operating system. So the server is all the memory, your processing power, and then your SAN is basically where all of our data resides. And for this piece, it's pretty neat how we're getting as far as the support goes. As long as we maintain a support contract on it, we won't see an end of life on this. They will replace the controller after 5 years as part of their normal RWP, and as long as we keep a recurring support on it, I won't be up here in front of you to purchase a SAN. I'll only be coming up to purchase servers, which is where your RAM and processing power and all the upgrades are really at.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yep. Go ahead.
What did we budget?
140, I believe.
Budgeted 140 and it's 63,400. Was the 140 for both the servers
sir.
and the SAN?
Yes, sir.
140 was for both?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the 63,400 is only for the servers?
Yes, sir.
How much is it for the SAN?
65,739.
So it'd be 128 or so
Yes,
of
sir.
the 140.
So
Correct.
we're gonna pay for the next set of SANs annually?
Correct, as a support contract. Correct.
How much?
15.
So about 11,000 under budget for both. Okay, any other questions? So is there any objection to making the replacement of the servers consent number 7 and the SAN consent number 8? All right, thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, police, E1, flock camera grant. Seems like we've been talking about this for a while. Me and you've had probably 3 or 4 conversations about it.
Yes, sir.
All
Good
right.
afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Afternoon.
So back in June, I came to you, and the reason it's coming back in front of you again is we've made some changes to what was agreed upon in June, and I want to be transparent and clear about what we're changing to. So in June, we asked to apply for this grant and to get 5 flock cameras with it. At that time, it was going to cost us an additional $750 more than what the grant was going to pay for. The grant was for $15,000. That what the council agreed to was if the grant was approved before August 18th, we could do this. After August 18th, the price for the cameras went up, and it would change everything. The grant did not get approved before August 18th, so we just set that aside. In October, we actually got awarded the grant. So then I began to work on it again, and of course had to get new bids from Flock. I've talked with our Flock representative. He's agreed to give us 5 cameras for $15,000 even, which is $750 less than what it was in June. With the price increase, they're basically giving us like a $3,400 discount. So $3,400. So I appreciate them for doing that. This motion or what's been put in front of you is to accept the grant, to allow the mayor to sign all the required documents. There's about 15 places I need the mayor to sign, so we can get this uploaded. We are under a time crunch to get it uploaded with the federal agency to make it all happen.
We need to do this how quickly? If
I
it
would
were
need
to be approved today,
If we get it approved today, I need those signed as soon
Tomorrow.
as possible so I can, at least by tomorrow.
yeah, I usually sign the next day, so. Any questions for,
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
how many flock cameras total would we now have with this?
This would actually bring us up to a total of 17. We have 10 right now in operation. There are 2 that are ordered that we're working on. We have one of them in, that's the portable one. So actually, we'd have 11. We're working on getting the DOT permit for the 12th one. This will be 5 more. Again, this is not an overnight process. We have to order the cameras. Flock then works to get the state approval, DOT approval, to get them placed. And
So the use of
it
the
takes a
flock
few
cameras
months.
requires DOT approval?
Yes, sir, because they're going on DOT right away.
Oh, okay.
All right, anybody else? All right, any objection to making that consent number 9? All right, thank you, sir. All right, let's go to Public Works. F1, purchase of a 2023 F-150 for distribution. Chris?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. We are seeking to purchase a new 2023 F-150 crew cab for the Utilities Director. The background, this is replacing the unit number 4093 that was stolen and ended up being wrecked and totaled.
By a train?
Yes, by a train. The impact, or I guess the staff recommendation, is to purchase a new 2023 F-150 from Hardy Ford in the amount of $47,720. The impact, replacing the unit relieves the vehicle inadequacies currently experienced by the department. $38,000 of it and change will be from the insurance that we got off of it, and the remaining balance will be from water and sewer funds.
All right, and this is for distribution. Is that where this truck is going?
Yeah, so John is actually going to be getting this truck, and
John.
he's John Bain, and he's going to be passing this truck on, his truck on to Jason, which is the one.
Distribution.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Council, you have any questions on this? Mr. Carter?
Does that mean this is an $86,000 truck? Is that what it is? You're getting 38 from the insurance and 47 something, 48?
No, just 47, 720 minus the 38. That's where the remaining funds will be coming from. Just what, 6,000 or my math's a little off.
So you're just asking, this is just going to approve?
Yeah, the remaining of the 47 would come out of water and sewer after the 38.
Let's just let Jennifer tell us the money real quick.
Well, that'll work too.
Well, it helps us to kind of.
Yes, he's correct. The total of the vehicle is $47,720, and then we received an insurance check for $38,226. The remaining would come out of the water and sewer fund.
So it's just 6,000 or so?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
All right, any other questions?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I see you got bids from Hardy, Lithia Springs Ford, and Buster Miles. Did you reach out to Don Rich?
They were unable to give us a quote on a 23,
Okay,
so we weren't able to get one from them.
okay.
All right. Anybody else? Is there any objection to making this consent number 10? All right. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to finance. You could have just stuck around.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, the first agenda item is the FY23 budget amendment. As you know, we finished fiscal year 2023, and during the year, there's some departments that we see that may be going over budget, and this is just a housekeeping where we transfer money from one department to another just to cover items. In this particular case, one of the good news is our insurance premium tax is directly correlated to or related to how much we have to pay the service delivery agreement with Douglas County for fire services. We actually received more insurance premium tax by almost over $211,000. So in turn, we had to give that proportionate share, I think it's 40.05% to Douglas County for fire services. So along with that, we had some other departments that in total went over budget, but we were able to take that overage in revenue and just clean it up so it's pretty for the auditors. But it's none of the departments that we saw were anything other than just some things that went on during the year that we were aware of. We were just waiting till year end to clean it up.
Okay. Is there any questions for Jennifer on, so these are the 23 amendments, 180 through 188?
Yes,
All right.
sir.
Are there any questions? All right, any objection to making that consent number 11? All right, let's do 24 budget amendments.
Okay.
16 through, does that say 168?
Yes, I'll explain. Don't get too alarmed, I promise.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, the first, the majority of this is going to be, again, that relates to last year, but I'll go over section by section. The first line item or block is for the CJCC grant for the flock cameras, which Shaddix just brought before y'all. The next block is regarding the purchase of the property, the old World Changers property. We just needed to amend the budget again, housekeeping. The next block is your Rise and Shine. That is money that they had at the end of the year that we just roll over to the new year and give them their money in their line item, so when they need it, they have it in their budget. And then the next section is the longer section where it is any capital projects that had been budgeted for, that had either started and not finished, or maybe it hasn't started yet, but they're going to happen this year. We roll that money over to the 2024 budget. So I listed all of the projects, and this includes your 2016 SPLOST, your general fund, your 2015 Carroll SPLOST, and a lot of it is your water and sewer projects that are ongoing as well. But this allows, again, this is items y'all already budgeted and approved for in the 2023 budget that did not get finished, that we're just rolling over that money to the new budget so that when invoices come in and they're working on these projects, they have a budget to be able to spend. But it's already been accounted for. Then the last section is somewhat similar. It's a little bit different just because it is open purchase orders that are not capital related. Louise and I go over all of the open purchase orders at the end of the fiscal year. And we make sure that if they're old, do they need to be closed? Are they legitimate anymore? If they are, and say the item was received or the service was performed middle of October, but the PO was issued in September, we need to, again, roll over that purchase order and roll over that budget so that when the invoice is paid in October, then they have the budget funds to pay for it. So again, it's all housekeeping. It just keeps the budget matching with when we pay the expenditure.
Right, okay. All right, Council, Mr. Carter.
Okay. I'm curious, what is the mayor and council small equipment for?
That was for the iPads.
Okay.
All right, anybody else? Okay, is there any objection to making that consent number 12? All right, let's do G3, write-off customer receivables.
Yes, this is something that we do on an annual basis. This is to write off or request for approval to write off the uncollectible customer accounts from October of 2022 through September of 2023. There are 175 accounts totaling $45,353.61, which is 0.44% of the revenue in both the solid waste fund and the water and sewer fund, which you can see in the agenda item. I kind of give you a history of if you scroll up just a little bit, there you go. The write-off history from November of 17 all the way up through current. Our range or history has been anywhere from 0.35% to 0.53%. So we're about average of our average. And also I show about what the other entities, you have to remember with water and sewer, we run it like a business. And unfortunately, every business has bad debt. And so this is just, again, a cleanup for fiscal year end and just asking for y'all to authorize us to be able to go in there and write these off. They're still in collections. They still may be collected down the road, but for our bookkeeping and to keep everything clean on our side, this is what we do on an annual basis.
So what I tried to do, we do this every year, and we keep trying to adopt policies that that mitigate this. And we were kind of high, then we dropped off really well in 22, and now we're back up again. But the point that you make about running it like a business and the fact that there's always going to be some bad debt, I mean, that makes some sense. So I looked at what are the other authorities doing. It looks like we're about 1/100% higher than the other authorities around us. So it's fairly negligible, but I still think that there must be something that we can be doing a little bit better. I don't know what that is. I think that we do have an issue with some water leaks where people are letting their bills run up a little bit, where they have a water leak
And they leave.
instead of making the repair, and then they end up leaving as opposed to paying that. That is something internally we need to look at a little bit closer. But all in all, I think we're probably in line with what we would expect. Council, do you have any questions on this, Mr. Carter?
Yeah, a couple of these say the balance was paid, then the customer reported the payment is fraud. How does that come about? I mean,
Yeah, that even happened, I think that's happened every year. They will go online or even call, make a credit card payment, then they'll report the payment as fraudulent to their credit card agent, to the credit card company.
and they'll get their money back.
Yes.
All right, anybody else? All right, is there any objection to making this consent number 13? Okay, thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Let's get to...
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
may I interject for just a second?
Absolutely.
Because I know that there are probably people listening on the radio that are vitally concerned about my answer to your question about weapons carry. I want to just give you a more precise answer to that question.
Okay.
And that is that carrying handguns into public buildings is lawful for any lawful weapons carrier if the building is open for business and where ingress into such building is not restricted or screened by security personnel. So the only thing that keeps you from carrying a gun into the meeting is the fact that we do have security personnel screening people for guns coming into the meeting.
So if you're screened coming in and they say you can't carry it in, then you can't carry it in.
Correct.
Okay.
But otherwise you could.
Okay, are you doing this one, Ken? All right, so H1 audio video equipment purchase.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of council. We currently hire outside companies to come in and do video presentations for us, and I think that a good bit of that can be done in-house, especially since modern technology allows us to basically do everything from our iPhones now, as long as we have some additional equipment, such as microphones and proper lighting and things like that. And what I'd like to do is basically start building a small inventory of audio and video equipment that we can use to equip a studio that we could build at the old library, and do a good bit of this stuff in-house. The current budget allows us $15,000 for this purpose. I would like to make some initial purchases of about no more than $8,000, and just basically equip a very basic studio that we could use, and as I say, build from an iPhone platform. So,
Council, do you have any questions for Ken? Ms. McCoy?
What kind of communications would we use this for?
this is for our Facebook and social media things that we do. We would do things like film our parades and concerts and stuff like that and put those on Facebook, maybe use them in some other tourism productions. This equipment could be shared by me and Madison and really, frankly, anybody else in the city that, the rec department for some of the things that they do.
All right, anybody else? Okay, so the budget, you have a budget of $15,000 for this type of expense, and you expect to expend no more than 8.
I'm asking for no more, to limit me at 8 at this
on
point,
this.
yes.
Okay. All right, is there any objection to making this consent number 14? All right, let's go to H2, street design coordination with BM&K. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ken, with BM&K. Tom?
Several years ago, we hired BM&K to design the improvements to Cleghorn and Anderson. Concurrent with that, we hired Carter and Sloop to design the water line upgrade on those same 2 roads. And the work was done. We even bid the water line, bought the pipe, but we were waiting for the apartment complex on Cleghorn to get built so that we didn't have heavy trucks coming in and tearing up the road right after we rebuilt it. Now we have Villarica Parkway designed, or significantly designed, at least so that we know where the crossing is. And so before we go into the construction of Cleghorn and Anderson, we need them to modify their plans to take Villarica Parkway into consideration. When BM&K was working on this, that intersection, Cleghorn and the new road, was, I think initially in their design, it was just a 4-way stop. Then it became a roundabout. So when they handed the plans over to us, it was a roundabout. Well, now it's not a roundabout. Now we're looking at doing a traffic light because we couldn't build a roundabout there. So they need to change their plans. And in addition to that, Falcon is going to be the one that's overseeing the construction of all that. And so this is going to give us the funds that we need to get BM&K started, and then we'll start working also on this next one, which will be the oversight of the construction.
All right. Any questions on this item? All right. Any objection making it consent number 15? All right, Tom. H3, survey required for construction of Villarica Parkway.
Okay, this one is a little bit broader than the title would suggest. So we know now the conceptual route for the part of the Villarica Parkway that the city is going to be responsible to build. And we need to survey all of those properties, get legal descriptions so that we can start working toward either land acquisition or easements or right-of-way or whatever's required for each parcel. In addition to that, we realized in this sort of embarrassing, oh my gosh moment, while we were doing the roundabout and the traffic light decision, that the land that we swapped with Arbor Valley when we build the new road and put in the traffic light will be landlocked. We just hadn't thought ahead enough, but if you go out there to the park, Cleghorn Park, there's a little drive that drops sharply off of Cleghorn and then wraps around and goes up to the WIC building. Mm-hmm. Well, that driveway will be almost underneath the traffic light. So you can't have a road that close to the intersection. So we're going to have to come out on Myrtle in order for that parcel to have access. And so in addition to the survey work for the parkway, we're going to do some survey work there on Myrtle so that we can accomplish that too.
Okay. This is the survey work for the construction of Villarica Parkway from the intersection, which is now going to be a traffic light, into downtown. Anybody have any questions?
Right here, like literally.
Right. All right. Any objection to making that consent number 16? All right. Amendment to South Street improvements with Georgia and West, Inc.
All right. This one also is a little broader than the title would suggest. So in the TAD conversation, when we were talking to the county the second time, the point of compromise that we reached was for the city to take on the responsibility to improve South Street from 78 to the back of the property of the old Georgia State Patrol building. In other words, the part of South Street that the fire truck was going to drive on. And at that point, the entrance into the fire station was a left turn off of South and then a left turn once they got on the property into the back of the building. But I've done fire station design before, and I talked to the guys after we got started on this, and I said, look, you need to enter this property from the back. That way you can turn left off of South Street onto a road behind the property, and then when you turn left onto the property, you go straight into the building instead of having this really tight left turn on the property. Plus, it gives you a lot more parking if you're not having to have a big drive in there with a left turn. And so we've been talking to the county, we've been talking to Jeff Matthews and also to John Bass, who's doing the design. And what we've asked him to do is to extend his proposal to us to design the South Street fix to include the piece of the new road behind the property from South Street down to the driveway. And so that's what you see here. And then in addition to that, we have talked to the county about them building not the improvement to South Street, but the new road behind the fire station that will come out at Chick-fil-A and Racetrack. And so we'll be bringing you back another proposal next year that will be for the county to provide the labor to build the road, and we pay them material. No, see, that's not right. They're going to provide the equipment and do the work. We're going to pay them for material and labor, and that's all. Not for the equipment. Sort of like what we did with Community Square next door to City Hall, going up to the post office when we got the land donation from Dr. Camp.
Right.
So that's where we're headed. So what this is going to do is this is going to get John going on the road on the back of the building, and then eventually we'll come back and present something to you for a working relationship with the county.
All right, is there any questions for Tom on this? All right. Is there any objection to making this consent number 17? All right, let's go to H5, relocation of WIC office to Powell Park. All right, Tom.
All right, so when we did the land swap with Arbor Valley, and we took the west parcel and they took the east parcel, the east parcel had two independent buildings on it. It had the old Cathy building, and it had the active WIC building, which is Mothers, Infants, and Children Department of Public Health facility. And we need to move that building. So Tracy Jarvis and I started working on this some months ago with the Public Health Department folks, and we showed them around the neighborhood, and we showed them around Villa Rica, and we said, give us some feedback. If you have to relocate, where would you like to go? We were sort of inclined to try to keep them in Cleghorn Anderson, so that's where we looked first. But we really don't have a site that's good for that has access to utilities and the right kind of topo and parking, and so the place they liked the best was Powell Park. So then we said, okay, well, we could go to Powell Park and we could just renovate the old concession restroom building and put them in there, because we thought it would be too expensive to move the building. The building that they're in is 3 trailers, right? It's a triple wide. And so to our surprise, when we got involved with a transport company, we can do that for less than $40,000. Have them take it apart, move it, put it back together. So that's what you have before you now, is a request to authorize us to spend up to $40,000 we have a quote to do it, so I'm trusting that they can do it. It's a difficult pull. So right from where it is, it's down a steep hill, around the leasing office now of Arbor Valley, because there's a trailer sitting in the way, and then up that hill, then over the railroad, and down 78 through downtown 3 times.
That ain't even the worst part.
Then you got to put it back together.
No, first you got to get past the cemetery. You can barely drive my little car past that.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to get in there. But anyway, so they've seen it. They've quoted on it. That's what we're presenting to you. It's a lot less money than if we were to renovate the concession restroom like we were talking about.
All right, Mr. Carter.
Okay, where in Powell Park would you put this thing?
So if you're standing in the parking lot looking at the building, and the ball fields are to your right, there's a parking lot facing the building, adjacent to the front of the building, and then there's another parking lot behind you, right? And then behind that, there's a pad that we could locate it on. So it would be on that second parking lot. And we've got utilities there. We've talked to Georgia Power. We've already got the water tap put in. I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
And that parking lot never
It would be on
gets
the,
used.
it'd be on the west side of that second parking lot,
Right.
where the trees, the
Right.
dedicated trees are and all that.
There's nothing but grass on that
Well,
pad that we're
there's some
talking about.
dedicated trees with signs on them, so I'm just curious, because we gonna leave those up, tear the trees down, what?
We're going to leave as much, we won't take down any trees that we don't have to.
Anybody else?
I'm like the mayor. I can't see no wide something going up that little narrow road going through the city.
Yeah, who was it that put the bollards up there?
She's sitting to your left.
And she only did part of them.
That's going to make it even more difficult. All right. But if they can do it,
Yeah.
we have to have a location for it, and it's better than us constructing a new
According to the
facility.
personnel there, they service about 800 customers out of that building regularly.
I didn't know that either. All right. Anybody else? Miss Warmoth? I could remember it. No, No, I figured. May as well try to remember it. All right, Miss McCoy.
Well, now I feel bad.
No.
You can't win, Mayor. Just go on.
I know.
I'm kidding. I was looking at it. My question is, I know how you said you wanted to keep it at close to Cleghorn and stuff. How many people, is it going to be harder for people to access at this location, or is that not going to be an issue?
It's right off of 78, so I mean, it's easy to get to for the region.
Okay.
And it's a regional facility. Carrollton has a facility, so we're this corner of the county
Okay.
for the department.
So if someone hypothetically were on the Douglas County side, they would have to go to a different one. They couldn't go to this because it's Carroll County, correct?
It's a state function, right?
Yeah, I don't think that.
So I don't know
think
that
the county
it's.
line
I don't
matters.
know that the county lines matter to that, but I'm way out of my element.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it was accessible because, I mean, we're not only talking about getting the trailers to that position, it's hard to get, like Gil was saying, it's hard to get, or the mayor was saying, it's hard to get a car even through there sometimes.
All right. Anybody else? Because now,
You could take it up
Leslie.
across Tanner, take it up Tanner and keep it on the big road. You don't have to take it through the graveyard.
Right.
What'd he say?
Go up Tanyard and Leslie instead of up Hillcrest.
Oh, yeah.
you could, but
Yeah,
I mean,
you
it's
got that
narrow
dip
going back
down
around
through
that
there.
creek too. But that would be a better option.
Yeah, I haven't
None
put-
of those
haven't
options
put
are
bollards
good.
on the other road.
All right. Any objection to making this consent number 18? All right. We're going to leave that for them to do anyway because we don't. We're not the ones going to be moving it. Okay. Did anybody sign up for public comment? We'll do that, and then I'll do the consent agenda. And Chief, would you come up just for a minute and remind us about a situation with the solicitor, just real quick. Okay. Okay.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Afternoon.
We had our solicitor for our court that has tendered her resignation. She is able to spend more time with her grandchildren, and she has a day added to her court in Douglasville, so she's not able to fulfill her obligations with us beginning January. So we're asking, we've had 3 names we were looking at for solicitor. We've discussed with Mr. Mecklin. Also, Tom had asked me to send the one I guess, our choice and our recommendation, and I did that. And so I didn't know if y'all had other questions.
Well, I just wanted you to just remind us that needed to be done, and it really needs to be done before the end of the year. So, David, I was just going to ask you, is this something we take up in executive, or is this something that would we just circulate it?
Yeah, I think you can just circulate it. I mean, unless there is a need to talk confidentially about any of the candidates, I think you could just do it in open session.
On the regular agenda, do we have an executive session on there? Let's put one on there for tonight, and then we may do it. We may not do that, and then we may. I'll just circulate the name that we have. We have that already, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions for the chief on this change in solicitor? Okay. No. Did you have anything else, sir?
Just a reminder, our Christmas party's Thursday evening. All of y'all are invited.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So let me open up for public comments. Nobody signed up. Is there anybody here who would like to give public comments? If there are, we would give you 3 minutes to come up. All right. Seeing none, I will close the public comments. What's today's date? The 12th.
12/12.
And then I'll go over the consent agenda. Here you go, Chief. I'll go over the consent agenda. Let me get all the way through it, and then if somebody hears something different or if there are objections, I'll hear them at the end. All right, consent item number 1, Planning and Zoning Commission appointments. Kendrick Davis and David Rogers, Wards 1 and 2. Consent number 2, Housing Authority appointment, Emily Woodall. Consent number 3, Villa Rica Development Authority appointment, Rusty Dean. Consent number 4, alcohol beverage license for Arpit Nilesh Patel. Consent number 5, 2023 personnel policy revision. Consent number 6, updated employee incentive pay. Consent number 7, replacement of servers. Consent number 8, sand replacement. Consent number 9, flock camera grant. Consent number 10, purchase of 2023 F-150 for distribution. Consent number 11, fiscal year 23 budget amendment number 180 through 188. Consent number 12, fiscal year 24 budget amendment 16 through 168. Consent number 13, write-off customer receivables. Consent number 14, audio-video equipment purchase. Consent number 15, street design coordination with BM&K. Consent number 16, survey required for construction of Villa Rica Parkway. Consent number 17, amendment to South Street improvements with Georgia and West Inc. And consent number 18, the relocation of the WIC office to Powell Park. Did anybody hear anything different, or are there any objections? All right, Madam Clerk, if you'll prepare it that way. Does anybody have anything else? Tom? David? Anybody on the council have anything before we dismiss for the evening? All right, we'll be adjourned. Thank you.